Thank you. Thank you so much for, yes. Thank you. Gratitude. Thank you so much for having me. I'm Mary-Jo Dionne. I am beyond pumped to be here. Thank you. On my first day of grade 8 at my new school in Greenwood, Nova Scotia, my mom told me a story. She and I had just moved across the country on account of her new job, and sensing my apprehension about having left my friends behind and heading into this building, my new school, where I was essentially at the time utterly friendless, she told me a bit of a parable. She told me the story of a farmer who was working in his fields on the outskirts of town, and he would sort of just casually chat with passersby. On this one particular day, a traveler approached the farmer and said, "Hey, I'm looking for a place to stay for a while. What are the people like who live in your town?" The farmer asked the traveler, what were they like in the town you just came from? The traveler said, "Ugh, they were rude and unfriendly and gossipy." And the farmer said, "Ugh, that's exactly what they're like here." So on the traveler went. Not long after, a second traveler approached the farmer. Same thing. "Hey, I'm looking for a place to stay for a while. What are the people like who live in your town?" Again, the farmer asked the traveler, what were they like in the town you just came from? This time, this traveler said, "Oh, they were friendly and welcoming and inclusive." And this time, the farmer said, "Oh, that's exactly what they're like here." The impact of perception on reality is the thread in the fabric of our lives. I was 8 weeks old when my parents first split up. My mom was very young, and in an effort for her to start over, she and I would move from the east coast of Canada, where we lived with my dad, to central Canada, Winnipeg, where we would live with her sister. We didn't have the resources for a home of our own, so ultimately we would spend the better part of the first 4 years of my life, on and off, living in my aunt's basement. That all changed, however, when I was about 5 years old. And with the support and encouragement of my aunt and uncle, who were always so good to us, my mom was able to scrape together enough for the down payment on our first home. Now, the cost of this house, this little house, it was a 70-year-old matchbox of a house located in a lower income neighborhood. Now, the cost of this house was $17,000. This was an almost insurmountably high price tag for my mom, and certainly indicative of our limited means at the time. On our first night in that house, we were somewhat lacking in furniture, so my mom would sleep on the living room floor, wrapped in a rug. She would later say that that first night, sleeping on the unfinished hardwoods of a rusty little fixer-upper, was the best night's sleep of her life. That house was not her house. That house was her castle. We had 2 TVs. I used to like to say that we were a 2-TV family, because this was sort of a symbol, a tangible symbol of wealth in my young mind. However, one TV was actually on top of the other. The one on the top had the picture. The one on the bottom had a piece of fabric draped over it. It had the sound. We are a 2-TV family. We didn't have a car at the time, so we would actually pull our groceries down the wintry city blocks by toboggan. "We are having an adventure," my mom would tell me. Our problems were never problems. They were what she called character builders. Leftovers in the fridge weren't leftovers. They were what she called taste sensations. When we finally did get a car of our own, it was a previously loved Datsun B210 that we named Kelly. Now, Kelly came with only one window roller upper downer handle thingy. So we would have to pass that handle from window to window to window to window anytime someone wanted their window rolled up or rolled down. My friends loved being piled into that car because for us, the window handle was never broken. It was what my mom called portable. Every day, daily, we'd pull out of our back alley the expanse of that sweet little house in front of us. Every day, she'd say to me, you know what we are, Mary-Jo? We are too lucky. And I knew she was right. It mattered to her that I knew how fortunate, just how truly blessed we were. Every day, she would remind me that we were very, very rich. I would pull that toboggan with my head held high. She told me that to have $1 million was very easy. All we needed to do was save $1, 1 million times. So by the age of 6, that's exactly what I started to do. I happily reused sandwich bags. I got a paper route. I opened a savings account. I would see these sandwich bags drying on the kitchen counter. They looked like a miniature campground made entirely out of like Smurf-sized transparent tents. I would see these sandwich bags and I would think, we are so rich. By the age of 14, she started to charge me 10% of my income for room and board. I begrudgingly paid her. 3 years later, when I graduated from high school, on the eve of a backpacking trip around Europe, she handed me a check for $2,000. Now, this was a sum in 1990 that I could not possibly wrap my head around. That's the 10% I've been collecting from you, she told me. That's the power of creating your own good fortune, she told me. What I learned from being raised by a strong single mom is that how we perceive a situation is not part of the equation. It is the equation. The language we choose to use is the equation. We describe a certain style of tank top as a wife beater. We say of someone who makes decisions on behalf of a family or an organization that they wear the pants. In 1992, Mattel introduced Teen Talk Barbie. They gave her the ability to speak. And the world waited with bated breath to hear what was on her plastic mind. We pulled the string, and she said, I love to shop. We pulled the string again, and she said, math class is tough. We say we want to be compassionate, powerful, intelligent citizens when so often, for generations, the language we choose to use tells a different story. What do we call it? What do we call it when a damsel in distress does what it takes to rescue herself? What do we call that? She may take on a variety of less glamorous jobs just for the hours. She may live in a lower income neighborhood in order to provide a home for she and her child. She may even pull her groceries by toboggan. In the process of doing all of that, she inadvertently teaches her child lessons in self-reliance, problem solving, wealth building. What do we call it? Do we say, that is a heroic home? That child is being raised in a heroic home. No, traditionally we say, that child's being raised in a broken home. My home was many things. Broken wasn't one of them. My home was fun, my home was creative, my home was eclectic, my home was forward-thinking. My home was a place where I knew beyond all doubt that seeds were being planted. And I had a front row seat to watching them blossom. And blossom they did. My mom was a short order cook. She made smiley faces out of the ketchup and mustard on the open-faced patties of the hamburgers she would serve. Every job has its own dignity, she would tell me. No matter what you do, make people feel special, she would tell me. She went to night school. She applied for better and better professional opportunities. And by the time she would retire 30 years later, she'd be the highest ranking civilian on the Department of National Defense military base where she worked as head of its human resources, impacting positively the careers of over 500 employees. George Bernard Shaw, the Irish playwright, he wrote Pygmalion, which would later become My Fair Lady, the musical and the movie. George Bernard Shaw said, "The people who get on in this world are the ones who get up and look for the circumstances they want. And if they can't find them, they make them." When the farmer told each of the two travelers a different response, right? To the first, that the people of his town were rude and obnoxious, and to the second, that they were warm and inviting, he wasn't lying. Language, it's a mirror that reflects exactly where we are. It's a crystal ball that reflects exactly where we're headed. Nothing has meaning except for the meaning we give it. Waves in the ocean, they're not good or bad, they're just waves. Ask a surfer, and the waves are good. Ask someone who can't swim, and the waves are bad. We create our reality entirely by the way we choose to label it. I am a mom. I really am a mom. Pretend right now you see the cutest 1-year-old and the cutest 3-year-old. There they are. Thank you for that. I am a mom. I have 2 daughters, a 1-year-old and a 3-year-old. More than anything, I want them to have at their disposal, instantly accessible, readily available, a language, an inventory of language so deeply ingrained in themselves, about themselves. So every night before bed, I tell them this, and I'm going to share it with you now, because I can safely ascertain that the same is true for each of you, in that it is true for us all. I say, you are smart and strong. You are loved and loving and self-loving. You're funny and friendly and fun. You're persistent and determined. You're active and adventurous. You're brave and courageous. You're communicative and expressive. You're compassionate and passionate and kind and generous and independent and powerful and curious and inquisitive. You're significant. You matter. You're a reader and a leader. You're financially responsible. You're financially independent. You're self-made. You're respected. You're respectful, and you're self-respecting. You're beautiful, wonderful, special, and talented, worthy and worldly, open-minded, tolerant, and a problem solver. You know that math can be fun, and school is cool. You're artistic, creative, and musical, all in your own special way. You're capable. You are the proprietor of your perspective. You're the chooser of your choices. You're the guardian of your language. You own the infinite possibilities of your one magical life. Canadian lyricist Leonard Cohen, Canadian treasure Leonard Cohen, says there's a crack in everything. It's how the light gets in. Because who says that all that breaks is necessarily broken? Oftentimes, the shattered pieces are that which, when fused together in a whole new way, glued in place with the cohesiveness of perspective and language, oftentimes that makes the most beautiful mosaic of all. Reuse your sandwich bags. Thank you so much for having me. Thank you. Thank you. Gratitude. Gratitude. Thank you.